every time that gold drops, sure, we all call it a buying opportunity, but at the end of the day, you can't buy in every downward day.
Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so happy to have Johnathan More from Starr Peak Mining here today. Johnathan, how's everything going?
I'm doing great. Thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Again, I just want to thank you for your patience with all the audio difficulty that I was having before the interview, but you powered through it like a champ. Very patient, so much
Anytime.
appreciated.
No problem.
So before we get into some of the questions that I actually had for you, I was looking at the metals market today, and my goodness, man, they is getting pounded right now.
Yeah, I
Um,
think we're scratching our heads ourselves. I mean, it's in this market right now, and nothing seems to surprise me. Whatever makes logical sense, you almost feel like you're doing the wrong thing, but I think we'll power through it.
oh, absolutely. I mean, these things are always cyclical, and a lot of the analysts that I've had on the channel, they've all the majority of them predicted over $2,000 gold by the end of this year. We still have plenty of time to hit that number. And as you can see from my display here, I'm very bullish on gold. In fact, I'll be buying another gold buffalo today. So I'm very excited. I'll be getting another one to add to the herd.
Love
But
it.
so let me ask you, there's never really been any period in history where there has been, so much currency, which has been just created in the magnitude that it has been. The fountain, it really doesn't dry up. Politicians, they just want even more. Deficits don't really seem to even matter anymore. Do you see gold going over $2,000 an ounce?
Yeah, I mean, I see it going 3, 4 thousand. I mean, it's the printing press that we are seeing it's out of control. Um, I also think people should realize that, we just look at the US side of things. We look and see what, the Fed's doing. We see all the stimulus that's been pumped into the system. We see the planned bills that are on the table for trillions more dollar for infrastructure. You got to take a step further and realize it's not just USA, it's actually every country in the world that has done exactly the same thing.
Right.
And gold isn't just a US investment. Gold is a global investment. I mean, it's around the globe. So, you have the UK, you have all the EU nations, you have China. Everybody has had a printing press. So it's, I mean, it's gonna fly in my opinion, and I think we're really in the second inning. I don't think if you're trying to make some logic on a timeline. I mean, we're in the early stages,
Yeah.
and sure, it's going to fluctuate like we're seeing today. Inflation, it's not going to be temporary. It's going to be something that we are going to see for the foreseeable future.
Now, are you excited for gold right now? I mean, I certainly am. As somebody who buys gold whenever I have the opportunity, on days like today when I do see, precious metals, taking a hit, I look at it as buying opportunity. I'm excited for it. I mean, are you excited for gold?
Yeah, so I completely. I mean, it's been a frustrating past 6, 7, 8 months. I mean, we saw a very big move in gold. When the pandemic with the original strain COVID was hitting us, gold did do a big move, and then we've kind of taken a bit of a downward slide. Um, every time that gold drops, sure, we all call it a buying opportunity, but at the end of the day, you can't buy in every downward day. I mean, it's just we have limited resources, and everybody's got their own portfolios.
Yeah.
But I personally, I'm more of a gold equity buyer. I buy gold stocks. I find for my personal investment and the things that we do, the exposure you can get from buying gold stock in public companies it seems to work for us. I had a friend that is in Chicago, and he's a commodities trader, and he actually 2 days ago went to buy some physical gold bullion, and it's surprising that he can't even get delivered any physical gold. There's no way of actually getting it. So the premiums that they're putting out there for people that want to buy physical gold, are through the roof. We've
Yeah.
never seen these levels. So my question is, why does gold go down when you can't even get a physical delivery of it? It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That for me is proof in the pudding that there is a balance that's not balanced. There's this disconnect between what is the supply and the demand, and gold is, I mean, gold has to go high.
Absolutely. And there's there really has been a big discrepancy, which it seems for the last almost like the last year and a half. To your point, with a lot of people, especially stackers who buy the physical stuff, like myself, usually the spot price would trade at a certain point with the metals, the physical not too far, from that spot price. And now we are seeing such a vast difference, so like, for example, today we're seeing the dip in the spot prices, and a lot of people are going to go out and try to buy physical. However, they're going to see that the physical prices are still quite high, and a lot of people are left scratching their heads as to why that is.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. I see that. I mean, I think that the dips we're seeing right now. I mean, I think the main reason for this gold and this big move we're anticipating, it's based on one factor, and that's the inflation, and that's the fact that all this printing that's done, as we touched on it just 2 minutes earlier in our conversation,
yeah.
we're seeing these kind of dips, all relating to the labor market. Well, I don't know. It doesn't add up to me. I mean, I mean, when you have more employment, there's going to be more inflation. There's more money in the system. So I really am not concerned with jobs reports coming out. I mean, it's for me, at the end of the day, the money supply, it's too much,
Yeah.
and you have to get your exposure in gold. And these blips along the way, I mean, it is what it is. It's frustrating, but we'll power through it, as I said earlier.
Now, there has been overall a commodities rally, right, in 2020 and 2021, especially though with like copper and zinc, some other base metals. Actually, they've been kind of going through the roof. Do you think that we're in a commodities super cycle?
Without question. I think the commodity super cycle with copper, zinc. I mean, the prices have gone through the roof. I mean, even going into lumber prices, and it's all supply demand. I mean, these types of commodities are consumed, so we've had big demand, and obviously the supply has been limited. When you look at gold, I mean, gold isn't consumed. Gold is a store of wealth, so it's a little bit of a different situation because we're not actually actively using it in terms of the same amount of gold's on the planet now that there's just it's always going to be here.
Right.
Um, I think it's the sentiment, however, of all the other commodities. If you're looking at valuations in markets or public companies that have these assets, like if you have a zinc company or a copper company, the sentiment, unfortunately, is tied to the gold price. I mean, if we see a slump in gold pricing, generally speaking, you're going to see a very subdued mining market overall. It just seems to be the temperature gauge is that gold price. But I think we're very early in the super cycle. Adding to that, we have a massive infrastructure plan in the United States that is being proposed, and that's the Democratic agenda is to I think it's another 3 to 3.5
3.5
trillion.
trillion. Mm-hmm.
Trillion. I mean, so what does that mean when you're building roads, bridges, airports, whatever this infrastructure, whatever's in the bill means? You're going to be using up more and more of these commodities like copper, zinc, lead, all these kind of precious metals. So that in a way is a huge bullish sign that
Sure.
it's going to continue.
Sure. Now, the company that you're CEO of, Starr Peak Mining, trading under the ticker STRPF,
Correct.
recently made a significant discovery. Can you explain the strategy behind the methodology and what caused a lot of eyeballs to pay attention to your drill results?
Yeah. We first of all we were smart with what we did, but we were very lucky. And sometimes I like to be lucky over smart any day of the week.
Sure.
But we were it's a Canadian asset, it's a Canadian company. We're in the province of Quebec, Canada. There has been when you're looking at investing in mining companies, being in Quebec and more specifically the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, which is kind of the very prolific and huge production of all big mines and major companies are all in this area. We that's where we're located. So we were all involved with a previous gold discovery over the last 3 years with a company called Amex Exploration. Mm-hmm. They had a major gold discovery. The stock's done very well, and we were early investors in that, and we're seeing this thing grow. And I think they've got about 30 million in cash now. They have a 200,000 for drill program. It's pretty incredible. So we looked at that, and we actually went and acquired a bunch of land around there once that discovery was made about a year and a half ago, and we put it into this company called Starr Peak. So we trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange as well under the symbol STE, but STRPF in the US. And we've just funded it and drilled, and voila, we hit a major discovery in actually what they call a VMS deposit, which, when I say we're lucky, I mean the VMS style deposit, it's worth more than just a gold discovery.
What exactly? And sorry to interrupt you, but what is a VMS deposit?
VMS is it stands for volcanogenic massive sulfide, VMS, and they're very rich in base metals such as zinc, copper, lead. They also have other precious metals, gold and silver, attached. And these types of structures and deposits are very rich. They're generally formed geologically in clusters. So when you have, a cluster of a bunch of metal, there's going to be a number of them all around, and it was formed from all the volcanic flow coming up through the crust over the years, and then deposited into these structures. They're known for very long-term production because of the proximity of these clusters. So you can generally get a lot of years of decades of mining out of these things, historically. The kind of the cost profile, the cash cost profile for mining companies, when you have multiple metals, so zinc, copper, gold, silver, all involved in the type of rock that you're pulling out, you can basically, it's instead of just having gold, you have all of them. So your profits are that much greater, mm-hmm. which of course means profit for the mining company, which means profit for the investor. To throw things into a little bit more perspective, so the rarity of this is that we haven't seen really any big VMS deposits in Canada, or globally for that matter, in quite some time. So this one was one that kind of jumped up, and it got people excited. There's been, I think, historically 350 known VMS deposits in Canada. Historically, there's 800 total worldwide. And just in Canada alone, it makes up the VMS deposits, or from production from these deposits, makes 27% of all copper production, 49% of all zinc production, and 40% of all silver production from Canada. All comes from these, 350 known VMS deposits in Canada. We were just fortunate enough to find one where there hasn't been one found in quite some time.
So are you going full throttle now, capitalizing on this strong momentum and this VMS deposit?
Yeah, we're fully funded. Our stock has had a big move on the initial results, and you start small with these things. You start doing a cheap raise, and you raise a couple $1 million, and you raise a couple million more. So we're now up to around 7 million Canadian in cash. Mm-hmm. Over the last 6 months, I've increased our drill program from the initial 5,000 meter program to 20,000, now to 40,000, and obviously we're going to be increasing it from here on in. We've attracted large institutions that know the area. Actually, we're early investors in the Amex discovery, have taken light into us. We're different than Amex. They're our neighbor,
right?
But we have this VMS deposit, and when we acquired that land that it was adjacent when we first begun, when Amex was, putting out there in huge numbers, we went and took it a step further. We actually acquired an adjacent piece of land, which was the reason why everybody went to this area to begin with. There was this past producing mine called the Normantal mine. There's actually a township named after it. And throughout the 1900s, from I think 1940 to early 1980s, it produced in excess of 10.1 million tons of zinc, copper, gold, and silver. Massive. The only reason why they stopped in the 80s was because of the base metal prices all kind of collapsed. So it was shut down. So we now own that, and we are now drilling 500-600 meters away from that previous known mine, and we're hitting grades that are identical. And there's one thing about having a big discovery or a past producing mine, is that there's a saying, they're never orphans. There's always brothers nearby.
Right.
Okay. So the best chance of finding another discovery is where other discoveries are made.
I was actually going to ask you that.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, why does it make sense, for people to invest in a company, where it is just a past producing mine, and so that makes sense. If you have a discovery in one spot, most likely there's other resources to mine for close by.
Yeah. So we've not only acquired all the past producing data that we have gotten from this past producing mine. I mean, when you purchase something, you get all the mining logs and what your team of geologists do. We have an exceptional team. These guys are unbelievable. And by the way, it's the same geology team, same group that does all the work for Amex as well. So it's we have a lot of knowledge of this area. You put all the past producing data of zones, where they were drilling, all the drill data. I mean, basically, it becomes your Bible. It's your 3D model, is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And you base your next drilling plan or exploration based on what you're seeing. And in our case, it's only 700-800 meters to our east, and we're drilling now in this new bit. And lo and behold, we're hitting zones exactly lining up with all the others. Everything lines up. So we believe that we're potentially sitting on what they call a mirror to this, which is, we think it's going to be that big or possibly bigger. This might even be the feeder source for this entire area.
Wow.
We're thrilled by it. We've just scratched the surface. When I say 40, 50, 60,000 meters of drilling, I mean, the drilling we'll do will be endless. And the more we drill, the more we prove up. And the beautiful part about a VMS deposit is that once you start hitting these zones and these clusters, the modern technique now that we have available to drill, compared to when they were producing from this area in 1980 or 76, 1960, 50, we have so much better technology. So, we can put a hole into the ground, and we can actually now put down a probe, which will go down and it'll read the conductivity of the rock. Mm-hmm. at those certain levels. So then when you get a massive spike in your conductivity on the readings, well, then you can now focus drilling into this spot. And we're basically owning in and being exact to the meter. I mean, it's incredible.
Really precise.
And that's, first of all, it saves a lot of money because you're not drilling blank holes.
Sure.
And one of the proudest things I can say is we have a 96% success rate on our drilling per hole.
Oh.
96% of holes that we put in the ground, we've actually hit massive sulfides, and that's unheard of. So, but I will say that's a testament to, this kind of mining modern era with this technology that's now available.
So let me ask you this before we wrap up. What would you say is your exit strategy for shareholders?
Well, it's okay. So the markets now, the way major companies operate is majors, they don't spend any money on exploration like they did back in the 90s or 1980s or 90s. They don't go out and pick up a piece of land like this and drill it themselves and have a discovery. Okay. So what they rely on is companies like us mm-hmm. to do that work for them. And what we will do is drill and drill and drill. My drills will not stop. And, the beautiful part about that as well is that I have a constant feed of news. Every 2 weeks, you're going to see drill result after drill result. And the only way to really play in these markets is, if you're invested in, mining companies, is you want to be in something where there's a reason for the market cap to go higher. Mm-hmm. And that is by successful drill results coming out in constant drilling. So if you keep putting out news and you're hitting on 96% of your holes so far, really the value is just built up and built up and built up every time you put a drill hole down. So our plan is to drill this as far as we can drill it. I mean, we haven't scratched the surface of how big and the upside of this potential of our property is. Get it to a level where the resource is so big and the economics look so good on it, and then you have a major will come and liquidate you, and you go sail off into the sunset.
That's what I was going to ask you. Just basically, you want somebody to eventually come and see all of the results that you guys have been producing and just pay you guys out.
Correct. I mean, everyone kind of, I get calls and people say, well, when do you guys start producing? I'm like, well, I mean, let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell them. I say, if a guy like me who is, we have a very good geology team, we have a very good, group of people that can put these things together in terms of make them investable for people to buy into these things. I mean, we're by no means mining experts in terms of production. That is good for the majors. The majors are the experts at that. So if I tell you as an investor that I'm going to put this thing into production and become the next big zinc, copper, gold, silver producer in Quebec, that would scare the absolute bejesus crap out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, it would, because that's not what I'm good at.
Right.
Okay. I'm good at finding it, building it, making this thing so pretty and put a nice ribbon on it. And you know what? We're good at laying it off to the major and give us a nice exit at a very, very high multiple.
Very cool. Johnathan, I do appreciate your time today.
Anytime.
I'm going to place all of your information down below. I have your ticker up for this entire interview, STRPF. I'm definitely going to check it out. And for all of the viewers watching the video, definitely check out Starr Peak Mining's website. Do your due diligence. And I'm very excited to speak with you in the future and see how much further along you have come. Johnathan More, thank you so much for your time today. And
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll
pleasure.
I'm glad you enjoyed your time with me.
Yeah, I always like talking rocks. It's a passion. We've been in it for a very long time, and I think we're situated for a pretty nice cycle here that we're in the early innings on. So anytime, give me a call and be happy to give you an update.
Awesome. Talk to you soon. And I would like to quickly thank these elite channel supporters. And if you haven't already become a channel member, please check out the awesome perks and join today. With that, this is Empire Precious Metals. Until next time, long live the Empire.